The coffee cup slipped from Ethan Blackwell's hand. It hit the floor. Coffee splashed across the polished tiles. The entire electronics store went silent. Ethan didn't notice. The billionaire's eyes were locked on one of the television screens mounted on the wall. "No," he whispered. Beside him stood a young black girl, no older than 12. She folded her arms. "I told you to follow me." 30 minutes earlier, Ethan Blackwell had been having what he considered a terrible morning. His driver was late. His assistant had called twice before 7 o'clock. An investor meeting worth hundreds of millions of dollars was scheduled for 10. And now rain was pouring across downtown Chicago. Ethan stepped out of his luxury SUV and rushed toward a coffee shop. As usual, people recognized him. Some whispered. Some stared. He ignored them all. Success had taught him one lesson. Most people wanted something. Money. Attention. A favor. He had no time for any of it. The bell above the coffee shop door chimed as he entered. A few minutes later, drink in hand, he headed back outside. That was when he noticed her. A young girl standing beneath the awning. Watching him. Not smiling. Not asking for money. Just watching. Ethan sighed. "Can I help you?" The girl didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied him carefully, like she was trying to decide something. Finally, she spoke. "Mr. Blackwell." Ethan frowned. "You know who I am?" "Everyone knows who you are." He started walking. "Good for them. Someone is stealing from you." His footsteps stopped. Slowly, he turned around. The girl hadn't moved. Rain drummed against the sidewalk between them. "What did you say?" "Someone is stealing from you." Ethan laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was ridiculous. "Kid, do you have any idea how many people work for me?" "Over 23,000. The smile disappeared from Ethan's face. The girl continued. "Your cybersecurity company has offices in 11 countries. Now his attention sharpened. "Who are you?" She ignored the question. "Stay quiet and follow me." Ethan stared, then laughed again. "That's not happening." The girl shrugged. "Okay." She turned away.
Just like that.
No begging. No explanation. Nothing. She simply started walking. Ethan should have left. He knew that. Yet something about her confidence bothered him. Most people tried to impress him. This girl acted as though she couldn't care less whether he followed or not. After several seconds, Ethan found himself moving. "What is your name?" he asked. "Maya." "Last name?" "Doesn't matter." "It matters to me." "It won't matter until you see the screen." Ethan frowned. "The screen?" "You'll understand." The answer only created more questions. For the next several blocks, Maya walked without saying much. Ethan followed. His driver called. He ignored it. His assistant called. Ignored. The investor meeting suddenly felt less important than understanding how a 12-year-old knew details about his company. Finally, Maya stopped outside an electronics store. Ethan looked at the sign. Then at her. "Why are we here?" "Because nobody would believe me if I just told them." "What exactly are you trying to show me?" "The truth." Maya pushed open the door and walked inside. Ethan followed. Rows of televisions covered the walls. Customers wandered between displays. Employees greeted them. One worker immediately recognized Ethan. "Mr. Blackwell. Welcome." Maya interrupted. "Can we use screen 14? The employee looked nervous. "We're not supposed to." "Please." Something passed between them. The employee swallowed. Then nodded. Ethan noticed. That wasn't normal. The girl had been here before. "What's going on?" he demanded. Maya walked toward a row of screens. "Just watch." An employee plugged a small device into a computer. Several televisions flickered. Then one screen came alive. Numbers appeared. Spreadsheets. Transaction records. Financial reports. At first, Ethan didn't understand what he was seeing. Then he recognized the logo. His company's logo. His heartbeat accelerated. "How did you get access to this?" Maya didn't answer. More files appeared. Account numbers. Transfers. Wire transactions. Millions of dollars moving through dozens of shell companies. Ethan stepped closer. His expression hardened.
No.
The coffee cup slipped from his hand.
Crash.
Coffee spread across the floor. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Ethan stared at the figures. Over $2 billion.
Gone.
Transferred.
Hidden. Stolen.
Over years. His voice dropped to a whisper. This isn't possible. It's real.
No.
It is. Ethan pointed at the screen. These records are confidential. I know. Where did you get them? My mother. The answer stunned him. What? My mother left them. Ethan looked at her carefully. For the first time, he noticed something beneath the confidence.
Pain.
Old pain. The kind that never completely disappeared. Who was your mother? Maya hesitated. Then she said a name. Alicia Johnson. Ethan froze. The name hit him like a punch. Alicia Johnson.
He knew that name. Not well.
But enough. Years ago, she had been one of the brightest cybersecurity analysts in his company.
Brilliant.
Respected. Fearless. And then she had died. A tragic car accident. At least that's what he remembered. You knew her? You hired her. Ethan swallowed. What does she have to do with this? Maya looked toward the screen. Everything. The transactions continued scrolling. More money. More accounts. More evidence. Each document seemed worse than the last. Ethan's stomach tightened. Because one thing had become painfully clear. This wasn't fake. These weren't random files. Whoever created this had access to information only a handful of people could see. A cold feeling crept down his spine. For the first time in years, Ethan Blackwell felt something he rarely experienced.
Fear.
Then Maya delivered the sentence that changed everything. My mother discovered who is stealing from you. Ethan stared at her.
What?
She found out years ago.
Who?
Maya's eyes filled with emotion. Anger. Sadness. Determination. The emotions of someone who had carried a burden for far too long. My mother tried to warn your company. Ethan's breathing slowed. Who was it? Maya looked directly at him. He isn't just someone who works for you. The billionaire felt his pulse pounding in his ears. The store suddenly seemed smaller, quieter, heavier. Maya pointed toward the screen, toward a file that had just appeared, toward a name Ethan knew better than almost anyone. And when he finally read it, the color drained from his face. Because the person accused of stealing billions wasn't an employee, wasn't a manager, wasn't even a vice president. It was the one man Ethan trusted more than anyone else in the world. It has to be a mistake. The words left Ethan's mouth automatically. He stared at the name on the screen. Richard Kane. His closest advisor. His right-hand man. The man who had helped him build the company from a struggling startup into a global empire. No, Ethan repeated. This is wrong. Maya didn't argue. She simply looked at him. That somehow made it worse. Because she wasn't trying to convince him. She was waiting for him to convince himself. Ethan stepped closer to the screen. His eyes raced across the documents. Transaction logs. Authorization codes. Internal approvals. Every trail led back to Richard. Yet Ethan couldn't accept it. Richard had attended family dinners. Richard knew his late father's stories. Richard had stood beside him through the company's toughest years. Richard was practically family. You don't understand, Ethan said. I understand more than you think. Richard would never do this. Maya folded her arms. My mother said you'd say that. The statement hit him hard. What? She said if anyone ever showed you the truth, you'd reject it. Ethan turned sharply. Your mother didn't know me. Maya's expression darkened. She knew you better than you knew yourself. The words stung. For a moment neither spoke. Then Maya reached into her backpack and removed an old flash drive. The device looked worn. Almost ancient. She held it carefully. My mother spent 2 years collecting evidence. Ethan stared at it. 2 years. She was scared. The billionaire frowned. Scared of Richard? Maya nodded. At first she thought it was just accounting fraud. What changed? She realized how many people were involved. Ethan's stomach tightened. How many? Enough. The answer wasn't comforting. Not even close. Maya handed the flash drive to him. My mother recorded everything. Ethan took it slowly. His hand felt unusually heavy. What happened after she found the evidence? The girl's face changed instantly. The confidence remained. But beneath it appeared something raw, something painful. My mother tried to report it. Ethan listened. She met supervisors. Then, they ignored her. His jaw tightened. Then she went higher. And they ignore her too. The electronics store faded into the background as Maya continued. Every word carried weight. Every sentence felt rehearsed. Not because she had memorized it, because she had lived with it. For years. My mother requested meetings. Nobody listened. She submitted reports. Nobody acted. She sent warnings. Nobody cared. Ethan remained silent. The accusations felt personal, because they were.
His company.
His leadership. His responsibility. My mother kept saying someone would eventually do the right thing. Maya laughed bitterly. But nobody did. The sound broke Ethan's heart a little. A child shouldn't sound that disappointed. A child shouldn't sound that tired. What happened next? He asked quietly. Maya looked away. She died. The words hung in the air. Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, Ethan asked the question. The car accident? Maya nodded. That's what everyone called it. What do you call it? The girl met his eyes. A warning. A chill moved through Ethan's body. Before he could respond, his phone rang. Richard Kane. The name appeared on the screen. Both Ethan and Maya saw it. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the phone stopped ringing. A second later, it rang again. Richard Kane. Maya's face hardened. Don't answer. Ethan stared at the screen.
Why?
Because he knows. What? He knows someone found the files. The phone stopped. Then immediately rang again. 3 calls in less than a minute. Ethan felt unease growing inside him. Richard rarely called repeatedly. Never like this. The billionaire finally silenced the phone. Let's assume you're right. Maya raised an eyebrow. Assume? Let's assume. The girl sighed. Fine. If Richard is stealing from me, why now? Maya pointed toward the screen. Because the theft is accelerating. Ethan looked back. New transactions were appearing. Larger amounts. More aggressive movements. Millions becoming hundreds of millions. The pattern was obvious. Someone was rushing. Someone was moving money quickly, as if they were preparing for something. His pulse quickened. What am I looking at? Maya's voice dropped. An exit plan. The words landed heavily. Suddenly, everything clicked. The increased transfers. The hidden accounts. The urgency. Richard wasn't planning to continue the fraud. He was planning to disappear. Ethan immediately pulled out his phone. Who are you calling? Maya asked. My security chief.
No.
Ethan frowned. What do you mean no? If Richard has people inside the company who says security isn't compromised too? The billionaire froze. He hated that she had a point. For years he had trusted the system. Now, every part of that system felt uncertain. Every department, every executive, every relationship. For the first time since building his empire, Ethan didn't know who he could trust. Then another thought struck him, one that made his stomach twist. What if Richard discovers we're investigating him? Maya's answer came instantly. He already has. Ethan's eyes widened. What? My mother always said people like him survive because they're careful. The girl's voice remained calm. Men like Richard don't wait until danger arrives. They prepare for it. At that exact moment, one of the screens changed. A new file appeared. Ethan leaned closer. It contained internal surveillance logs, private communications, deleted messages. His blood ran cold, because one message stood out from all the others. A message sent just 20 minutes earlier. The sender's identity had been hidden, but the contents were clear. Someone has the files. Find them. Ethan felt his chest tighten. The message had been sent before he even entered the electronics store, before he knew Maya existed, before he saw the evidence. Someone had already been searching. Someone had already realized the truth was leaking. Maya saw the fear in his eyes. Now you understand. The billionaire slowly nodded. For the first time, he finally believed her. Not because he wanted to, because the evidence left him no choice. Then another notification appeared. This one wasn't on the television. It was on Ethan's phone. An emergency corporate alert. His eyes widened. 3 senior financial officers had resigned within the last hour. Not 1.
3.
Simultaneously. Without warning. Without explanation. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Richard was cleaning house. Destroying connections. Eliminating witnesses. Preparing to run. Ethan looked at Maya. What do we do? The question surprised both of them. A billionaire worth billions. A man accustomed to giving orders. Asking a 12-year-old girl for guidance. Maya noticed it too. For the first time, she saw something different in him. Humility. Not much, but enough. We move faster than he does.
How?
We get proof nobody can erase. Ethan nodded. Then another realization hit him. Wait. Maya looked at him. If your mother collected all this evidence. The girl immediately understood where he was going. Then yes. There is more. Much more. Where? Maya hesitated. For the first time all day, uncertainty appeared on her face. Because what she was about to reveal scared even her. My mother left one final file. Ethan leaned forward. What file? The girl swallowed. The file containing every name. The billionaire's heartbeat accelerated. Every name. Not one thief. Not 2. Everyone involved. The entire network. The whole conspiracy. Years of corruption. Years of secrets. Years of lies. Hidden inside a single file. Where is it? Ethan asked. Maya's eyes lowered. Then she delivered the answer. I know where it is. Then let's get it. The girl looked up. Fear flashed across her face for the very first time. That's the problem. What problem? Maya took a deep breath. Because she knew what came next would change everything. The file is inside the one place Richard never expected anyone to search. Ethan waited. And when she finally told him where it was hidden, his eyes widened in disbelief. Because the last place Alicia Johnson had hidden the truth was somewhere neither of them could reach without walking directly into Richard Kane's trap. She hid it inside your headquarters. The words landed like a hammer. Ethan stared at Maya. My headquarters? Maya nodded. The original server room. Ethan's mind raced. The original server room had been decommissioned years ago. Most employees didn't even know it existed anymore. It sat beneath the oldest section of the building.
Locked.
And used. Forgotten. At least that was what everyone believed. How do you know? Ethan asked. My mother left instructions. And she never told anyone else? Maya shook her head. She knew they were watching her. The more Ethan learned, the worse he felt. For years, Alicia Johnson had been fighting a battle alone. A battle that should have been taken seriously. A battle his company ignored. A battle that had eventually cost her everything. His phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't Richard. It was his assistant. Ethan answered immediately. Sir, the assistant said nervously. Richard is asking where you are. Ethan exchanged a glance with Maya. What did you tell him? Nothing. But he's asking everyone. The billionaire's grip tightened around the phone. Everyone. Yes, sir. That wasn't normal. Not even close. Richard had never cared where Ethan spent his mornings. Never. Has he said why?
No.
The assistant hesitated, then added something that made Ethan's pulse spike. Sir, he looks worried. The call ended. Maya didn't need to ask what happened. She already knew. He's panicking. Ethan nodded, which means we're running out of time. Within 30 minutes, they were sitting inside an unmarked SUV heading toward company headquarters. Rain continued pounding against the city. The atmosphere inside the vehicle felt heavy. Neither spoke much. Both understood the stakes. If they reached the hidden file first, everything changed. If Richard reached it first, years of evidence could disappear forever. As the massive glass tower came into view, Ethan's phone rang again. Richard. This time Ethan answered. Richard. The response came immediately. Ethan, there you are. Richard sounded cheerful. Too cheerful. Where have you been? Busy. I've been trying to reach you. I noticed. A brief silence followed. Then Richard laughed. You still coming to the investor conference? Of course. Good. The friendliness sounded forced. Artificial. Dangerous. We have a lot to discuss. Ethan's eyes narrowed. So I've heard. Another pause. Then Richard spoke carefully. Everything okay? The billionaire looked out the window, watching rain slide down the glass.
No.
For the first time, Richard sounded uncertain. What do you mean? I'll see you soon. Ethan ended the call. Maya immediately looked at him. He knows. Definitely. What did he say? Nothing. The girl nodded. Exactly. By the time they arrived at headquarters, Ethan's anxiety had become impossible to ignore. Thousands of employees moved throughout the building. Most had no idea their company was standing on the edge of disaster. Inside the lobby, people greeted Ethan as usual. But today felt different. Every smile looked suspicious. Every glance felt meaningful. Every conversation seemed secretive. Paranoia was beginning to spread, and Ethan hated it. Maya stayed close beside him. Some employees stared. Others whispered. Nobody questioned Ethan's decision. When the boss walked with a 12-year-old girl, people assumed there was a reason. Deep underground, they finally reached the abandoned section of the building. Dust covered the hallways. Old equipment lined the walls. The place felt frozen in time. Ethan shined a flashlight ahead. You sure this is it? Maya checked a folded piece of paper. My mother's instructions say room B17. They continued. The silence became almost unbearable. Then they reached the door. B17. Ethan exhaled slowly. This is it. The old lock had rusted, but after several attempts, it finally opened. The door creaked. Inside sat rows of outdated server racks. Most appeared inactive.
Dead.
Forgotten. But one machine still showed a faint blinking light. Maya immediately pointed. There. They rushed forward. A small metal box had been attached beneath the server. Hidden carefully. Hidden intentionally. Ethan removed it. Inside sat a single hard drive. Nothing more. Nothing less. Years of secrets contained in one tiny object. Maya stared at it. Her eyes filled with emotion. My mother was here. Ethan looked at her. How do you know? Because she wrote something. Attached to the inside of the box was a note.
Old.
Yellowed. Fragile. Maya carefully unfolded it. Her hands trembled. Then she read aloud. If you're reading this, it means I failed. The room went silent. Tears immediately filled Maya's eyes. Ethan felt his throat tighten. If you're reading this, she continued, the people I trusted did not listen. Her voice cracked. If you're reading this, tell my daughter I never stopped fighting for her. A tear rolled down Maya's cheek. She kept reading. And tell her the truth always matters, even when powerful people refuse to hear it. The room became painfully quiet. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Ethan spoke softly. I'm sorry. Maya looked at him. What? I'm sorry nobody listened. The girl didn't answer. Because part of her wanted to accept the apology. And another part remembered spending years without her mother. Years of unanswered questions. Years of grief. Some wounds weren't healed by words. Suddenly footsteps echoed through the hallway. Both froze. Someone was coming.
Fast.
Ethan immediately switched off the flashlight. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Closer. Then voices. Several voices. Maya's eyes widened. They found us. Ethan listened carefully. At least 4 people. Maybe more. Searching. Approaching. The billionaire quickly grabbed the hard drive. We need to move. They slipped through a side door and entered another corridor. The footsteps behind them accelerated. Whoever was coming knew exactly where to look. Which meant only one thing. Someone had told them. Someone inside the company had tracked Ethan's movements. The realization made his stomach sink. The conspiracy was larger than he imagined. Much larger. They hurried through the maze-like basement corridors. Behind them, voices continued shouting. The chase was on. By the time they emerged onto another floor, Ethan was breathing heavily. Maya looked exhausted, but neither stopped. Not now. Not when they finally had the evidence. Back upstairs, Ethan made a decision. A risky one. A dangerous one. But the only option remaining. We're going to the investor conference. Maya stared at him.
Now.
Yes.
Why?
Ethan looked down at the hard drive, then toward the towering conference hall visible through the glass, because suddenly he understood something important. Richard expected secrecy. He expected private meetings. He expected negotiations. Damage control. What he wouldn't expect was public exposure. In front of hundreds of investors. In front of journalists. In front of cameras. Ethan's eyes hardened. For the first time all day, certainty replaced fear. We're ending this today. An hour later, the conference hall buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of investors filled the seats. Reporters prepared cameras. Executives mingled near the stage. And standing at the center of it all was Richard Kane.
Smiling.
Laughing. Acting as though everything was normal.
Until he saw Ethan.
The smile vanished instantly. Then he noticed Maya. Then he noticed the hard drive in Ethan's hand. And for the first time in many years, Richard Kane looked afraid. Ethan saw it. The fear. The panic. The realization. Richard knew. He knew the game was over. But he wasn't ready to surrender.
Not yet.
Because as Ethan and Maya walked toward the stage, Richard suddenly reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and sent a message. A single message. The moment he hit send, several people scattered throughout the conference hall began moving. And Ethan immediately realized one terrifying truth. Richard hadn't come alone. The room was filled with people willing to protect him. And the most dangerous part of the battle was only beginning. Ethan saw it happen almost immediately. One man near the back stood up. Another executive slipped out a side door. A woman seated near the front quickly checked her phone and whispered to someone beside her. The movement was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But once Ethan saw it, he couldn't unsee it. Richard had allies everywhere. For years, Ethan had believed he was leading the company. Now, he realized parts of his own empire had been operating in the shadows without him. Maya noticed the change in his expression. What is it? He wasn't acting alone. The girl's face hardened. My mother said that too. Ethan looked toward Richard. The man had recovered some of his composure. In fact, he was smiling again. That confidence bothered Ethan. It meant Richard believed he still had options. And dangerous people were often most unpredictable when cornered. The conference host stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Ethan interrupted. I'm taking over. The host froze. The audience turned. Murmurs spread through the room. Ethan walked directly toward the stage. Maya followed. Richard's smile finally disappeared. The billionaire climbed the steps and took the microphone. Hundreds of eyes locked onto him. Investors, journalists, executives, employees. Everyone sensed something unusual was happening. Ethan took a slow breath, then spoke. I was supposed to be discussing the future of this company today. The room fell silent. But before we talk about the future, we need to talk about the truth. A wave of confusion moved through the audience. Several reporters immediately lifted their cameras. Richard remained perfectly still, watching, waiting. Ethan continued. For years, someone has been stealing from this company. The room erupted.
Gasps.
Whispers.
Shock.
The statement hit like an explosion. Richard finally moved. He stepped toward the stage. Ethan. The billionaire raised a hand. Not yet. Richard stopped. The tension became unbearable. Maya stood quietly near the side of the stage. Her heart pounded. Years of waiting had led to this moment. Years of grief. Years of unanswered questions. Years of carrying her mother's burden. And now the truth was finally stepping into the light. Ethan looked toward the technical crew. Put the contents of this drive on the screen. The technician hesitated, then obeyed. A massive screen behind the stage flickered. Files appeared. Transactions. Bank records. Approval signatures. Offshore accounts. The room exploded with noise. Reporters stood. Investors leaned forward. Phones appeared everywhere. People started recording. Richard's face turned pale. Still, he tried to fight. This is ridiculous. Ethan didn't look at him. Is it? Those documents could be fabricated. A few people nodded. For a second, uncertainty spread. Then Maya stepped forward. The room quieted again. She wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't an executive. She wasn't an investor. She was just a 12-year-old girl. Yet somehow she commanded everyone's attention. My mother collected these files. Richard's eyes narrowed. Maya saw it. The moment he recognized the name. The moment panic flashed across his face. My mother was Alicia Johnson. The room became silent. Dead silent. Richard's confidence cracked. Only for a second. But it was enough. Maya continued. She tried to report what she found. Nobody moved. Nobody listened. A few executives lowered their eyes. They ignored her. The silence became uncomfortable, painful. Then Maya looked directly at Richard. And then she died. The words landed heavily. Richard immediately reacted. Are you accusing me of murder? Maya stared back. I'm accusing you of being afraid of the truth. The audience erupted again. Reporters practically jumped from their seats. Questions flew from every direction. Ethan stepped back to the microphone. There is more. The room quieted once again. He nodded toward the technician. Play the recording. The technician clicked a file. Audio filled the conference hall. A voice echoed through the speakers. Richard's voice. Crystal clear. Several years younger. But unmistakable. The audience froze. Then the recording continued. The conversation detailed hidden accounts, secret transfers, methods for moving money without detection. Every sentence tightened the noose around Richard's neck. By the time the recording ended, the room was in complete shock. Richard looked like he had been punched. His allies looked even worse. Several people quietly stood and tried to leave. They never made it, because at that moment the rear doors opened. Security entered. Not company security. Federal investigators. The room gasped. Richard's face lost all color. Ethan hadn't called them today. He hadn't needed to. The evidence had already been sent. Earlier. Automatically. One final safeguard Alicia Johnson had built into her files. Maya hadn't even known it existed until they opened the hard drive. The truth had already escaped. It couldn't be erased. Couldn't be hidden. Couldn't be buried. The investigators moved through the crowd. One by one, they approached people, executives, accountants, managers, the entire network. The conspiracy was collapsing in real time. Richard looked around desperately. For the first time, there was nowhere left to run. Then something unexpected happened. He laughed. A cold laugh. A broken laugh. The kind that came from someone who knew they had lost. You know what your problem is, Ethan? The billionaire stared at him. Richard smiled bitterly. You spent years thinking you built this company alone. Nobody interrupted. You were too busy being important to notice what was happening around you. The words stung, because they were true. Partially true. Richard pointed toward Maya. That little girl found the truth before you did. Ethan remained silent. Richard laughed again. Do you know how many warnings you ignored? The billionaire felt every eye in the room turn toward him. And for once, he didn't defend himself. Because he couldn't. He remembered the reports he never read, the meetings he skipped, the employees he dismissed, the voices he ignored, including Alicia Johnson's. Especially Alicia Johnson's. Security finally approached Richard. The man stopped resisting, stopped arguing, stopped pretending. As they placed him in handcuffs, he looked directly at Maya. You think this changes anything? Maya met his gaze. No. Richard frowned. The girl took a deep breath, then delivered the sentence that silenced him completely. It changes everything. The room erupted into applause. Not for Ethan. Not for the company. For Maya. For Alicia Johnson. For the truth. Tears filled Maya's eyes. For the first time in years, she felt lighter. Not happy. Nothing could erase losing her mother. But lighter. Like she was finally putting down a weight she had carried for too long. Months later, the company looked very different. Dozens of corrupt executives were gone. New leadership had been installed. Policies changed. Oversight improved. Transparency became mandatory. But the biggest change happened inside Ethan Blackwell. He no longer rushed past people without listening. He no longer assumed important ideas came only from important titles. And he never forgot the lesson a 12-year-old girl had taught him. One afternoon, reporters gathered outside the opening of a new technology foundation. A foundation named after Alicia Johnson. The crowd applauded as Maya cut the ribbon. Scholarships would be awarded every year to talented students who couldn't afford opportunities. Alicia's legacy would help thousands, maybe millions. A reporter approached Ethan. "Mr. Blackwell, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from all of this?" The billionaire smiled, then looked toward Maya. "The most valuable voice in the room isn't always the loudest." The reporter nodded. "And what would you say to Alicia Johnson if she were here today?" Ethan took a slow breath. His answer came quietly. "I should have listened." Nearby, Maya heard the response. For the first time, she smiled. A genuine smile. The kind that comes after justice finally arrives. The kind her mother would have been proud to see. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, what would you have done if you were Ethan Blackwell? Would you have followed Maya, or would you have walked away? And remember, never underestimate someone because of their age, appearance, or background. Sometimes the person carrying the truth is the very person the world refuses to hear. Until the next story, stay safe, stay curious,